Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is so great to have you all joining us today. My name is Nicola Korzine, and I am the founding executive director of the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. Now, for those of you who may not know us, this could be your first time joining us today. First and foremost, again, welcome. Delighted to have you here. But the center is a nonprofit who is committed to enabling entrepreneurs from all over the world to realize their maximum potential and grow. And have we got a treat for you today to inspire you to continue doing just that for all of our communities and our world. One of the things that you may have noticed in that great welcome video is that we have launched a really big movement in this very difficult time. It is called Mentor Makers, and it has just a small goal, just like small entrepreneurs often do. Our goal is to deliver 1 million mentor hours to more than 50,000 businesses in this very difficult time through responsive mentoring. We are unlocking the power of mentorship for all. Now more than ever, we know how much our entrepreneurs are doing for all of us, and we want to be there for all of you. So if you are interested, if you feel that you have capacity to unlock some of that expertise that's living inside all of you right now, and you want to give, you want to contribute, please take a moment to sign up. We need you in this movement. We're not going to do it alone, and we're excited to have you involved. So please become a mentor today or activate your own needs around mentorship through our platform. Now, as a reminder, we are going to be opening up for live Q&A throughout today. So please make sure you pop those questions into the chat box that you'll find at the bottom of the screen. And as a reminder, none of what we offer, all of our free programming, our free mentorship, our free resources would be possible without our amazing sponsors and our partners in this. We truly are appreciative of all they give to our work as a nonprofit for entrepreneurs. So to Nasdaq, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, BPM, NZTE, and Microsoft for Startups, thank you. We're truly humbled and inspired by all of your contributions. And I know our entrepreneurs say a big thank you as well. Now, I have a couple of polls that I want to quickly launch before we get to the really exciting content to come with JVH today. During these unique times, we're actually curious how the sentiment is amongst our entrepreneurs. We've actually been measuring this since the start of COVID, and understandably, a lot of our entrepreneurs are really struggling in different ways. So we want to take a moment to just get a pulse of how you're all doing in these very challenging times. We will be sharing that poll just momentarily. Would love to get as many people involved on this. Interestingly, and not surprisingly, we see a healthy dose of optimism always with our entrepreneurial community. And that is certainly the sentiment for today. Thank you for all of our optimistic entrepreneurs. We need that optimism always in society. JVH and I had a chance to catch up and share how much we have to look forward to in society these days. And thank you for sharing that for sure. I've got one more poll that I want to go ahead and launch now. Again, if you're not familiar with the center, you should know that the things that keep you up at night are the programs that we commit to building for you. So we always ask our entrepreneurial community, what are you struggling with right now? And we promise that over the next 10 to 12 weeks, you will see these needs reflected in our programs, our classes, our workshops, our toolkits, our things that we bring forward to you. So if you can take just a moment to complete that poll for us, let us know what you're struggling with right now. If it's finance, if it's sales, if it's marketing, are you working through a pivot? Obviously, a lot of our businesses have been going through that right now. We're just trying to hang in there and survive. We understand it all. No right answer, no wrong answer, I promise, in all of this. And we appreciate every one of your contributions around this topic. A lot of dynamics showing up today around team. Obviously, we appreciate and recognize the conversation unfolding today through JVH is going to be around really hiring and connecting with our team in this really interesting period. So delighted to learn that and see that reflected today. So we'll go ahead and end that poll. We're going to go ahead and share those results with everyone right now, just so you can kind of see how you are not alone in this work and in these struggles. Thanks so much for taking that. Now, without any further delay, let me please invite you to join me in giving an incredibly warm welcome to our special guest, an undeniable trailblazer who has truly pushed the boundaries to reach extreme depths in both her professional and her personal achievements. Janice Bryant Howroyd, founder and CEO of ActOne Group. Please join me in welcoming JVH. Welcome.
Speaker today, the first African-American woman to own a billion-dollar company.
She started the company in 1976 with just a few $100s. She's now ranked by Forbes as second wealthiest self-made African-American woman in America, behind only Ms. Oprah Winfrey.
ActOne is one of the largest staffing companies in the United States.
He's also the first African-American ever named by the Star Group as one of the 50 leading women entrepreneurs in the world.
Janice and I were recently both honored at the BET Honors Awards, and she is a true inspiration.
She spent almost 40 years helping others find work. She could fill a book with her words of wisdom.
Do you feel like the climate has changed for women, and especially for minority women?
Let's be clear, the climate has changed, but it's not sunny weather.
This journey is not one that I consider having reached success. Rather, I believe I'm on the road of success.
A road to success, truly inspiring, absolutely amazing. We're so glad to have you with us today. Welcome.
Hey, Nicola, it is wonderful to be here.
Awesome. Well, look, we have so much that we want to get to today. I'm going to dive right in, if you'll indulge. And I'm going to kick things off with obviously the topic of the hour, no pun intended, mentorship. I know how much it has meant to you, both to contribute, to give, to share, and to learn through this really big, inspiring word called mentorship. So can you share, maybe to start the chat off today, who are some of the mentors that you've been inspired with? And maybe how did they change the trajectory of your own entrepreneurial journey?
You know, that last part of the question really is exciting for me because it frames how I answer the first part. Had you asked me that question only, who's been a great mentor for you? Definitely, I would have to say my mom is my greatest mentor. And so when you talk about mentorship, there's this thing that goes around in my family where we call it momentorship, like men and women. But the thing is, I believe that mentorship occurs in different ways, right? You have the direct mentorship, and that's typically what most people think of. I'm going to find somebody who's really doing what I want to do. They do it well in the way I'd like to do it. And so I'm going to connect with them and learn in a direct and purposeful way from them. That's direct mentorship. Then you have shadow mentorship. I see what's going on. And that, by the way, is really an opportunity for folk, given that we have such enormous and incredible platforms, social platforms, where we can actually do that. We're not just learning about them. When I did shadow mentorship as a kid, I was reading magazines. Yeah, we got print back in those days. And I didn't see a lot of people who looked like me or doing the things I thought I wanted to do on TV. But I listened to radio. You know, today, everybody has a platform to work from and to share from. And so shadow mentorship becomes an opportunity because folk are sharing in a very direct way. My own social platforms are filled with people who respond back that they enjoy the mentorship just through what I'm saying or sharing in that moment. Don't undervalue shadow mentorship. And then I think the third way that we can all learn is in our connections, where we just learn through the relationships we have, whether we define them in purposeful sessions or not. We learn in the process of experiencing our work with others. All of these are very valid. So for me, when you ask who mentors me, I am mentored in all those ways. Direct mentorships, though, when I said that second part excited me, occur for me not just in the people who I look to who've done what I want to do or live in a way I want to live. It's occurring in my own organization. We've got folks in our organization, and I won't weigh in our whole time with listing their names, but they include people like Richard Wilkie, who's been a part of our organization at Apple One for years. This is a guy who invests his truth in his work. Our organization says that the candidate is the center of our universe. He lives in that way. And I'm inspired and I'm continued to perform from that because of how Richard leads his organization. We've got my own friend Obed, who connected us today, is always bringing new ideas and thoughts that he's finding, not just in our industry, but in life to me. So we have mentor opportunities all around us. When we get into how do I take it to a tactical level, I think the important thing about gaining mentorship opportunities is to remember this. First, mentorship has to be an equitable and mutual opportunity. So if you're asking someone to mentor you, be sure you've evaluated and you're clear up front with them what they get out of it as well. And then the second thing, Nicola, that's so important about it is that you got to keep the promise. Hashtag keep the promise. When you engage in a mentorship with someone, keep the promise not just on the timeliness of your meetings or the content of the conversation, but the promise of how you're going to use that and be responsible to it. And then the last thing I just like to share is angel wings. You know, I live in this world of angel wings. Some people call me Pollyanna. I just think that, you know, being a woman of a certain age from the deep South, there's nothing Pollyanna about this. I'm just happy, okay? And this I share as the angel wing, Nicola, you've got to remember to pass it on. Everything you do is shared, whether you share it intentionally or not. So remember to live in that way. How's that?
I love that. I love that. And you know, that pay it forward approach, that's real legacy, right? Like that's all we have at the end of it. Everything else we're not taking with us, but the lessons, the sharings, the opportunity to connect, to find that.
And you don't have to wait to get there to share it.
No.
You know, you really, my phone is blinking. So when you see that light, that's not my stardust that's happening. My phone, I didn't turn my light off. So I'm going to do that right now. But the thing about paying it forward also, Nicola, is that you don't have to wait till you get there to share it. Share it along the way. You can do good and do well at the same time.
I love that. You know, we have this big movement that you've been inspiring us in all the way through. And our goal is to unlock 50,000 new mentors, people that don't even see inside of themselves all that they have to contribute. And it is those risers. It is those.
Nicola, let me tell you, Don just shared something in chat, and he was quoting Zig Ziglar. You know, Zig Ziglar, Don, is one of the greatest mentors I ever had. And he did say, you can get anything you want in life if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. And that is so profound. Zig said that for me over 30 years ago, and it's as relevant today as it was then.
I love that. I love that. Well, speaking of a brighter future that is possible, not just through mentorship, but also through some of the challenges that we've all found, you know, equality, whether racial, whether gender, whether geographical, is definitely an issue that is top of mind for everyone right now. Yeah, I want to ask you authentically, how do you lead with that mission? How do you be a leader who really rises through to equality in this time? What are your strategies and your perspectives on that?
Well, you know, and for it to be helpful to people at an individual level, we really have to know specifically, because something else that Zig said was, no, I think this was actually Fred Price. You can be a meaningful specific or a wandering generality. We have to talk in the general here with so many people present right now. But to be specific around strategy, we've got to know where you're going. And so why don't we just kind of guide people from a general perspective on how they can get specific themselves, okay? So I'm going to give you 4 things that help with that. Number 1, you've got to know yourself. I think it was said years ago, know thyself, right? You've got to know yourself. Let's pause for a moment. to share that as we've all lived through COVID, this is the first time in the history of the world where we're all focusing on solving for the same solution at the same time. And George Floyd gave us 8 minutes and 43 seconds to think about where we are racially. Breonna Taylor, say her name, right? We've also got the impact of health pandemic that has touched us and our families. I would weigh in that, and I'm not a gambler, I'm a risk taker. There's a difference. I risk a lot of the success on my business to say this is true. Every single person on this call right now, present with us, knows somebody personally or has themselves experienced an impact from COVID-19, a health impact. That's huge. We've not been able to say things like that before. Economically, many of our audience are wondering how they're going to do it. The strategies they had in place in 2019 beginning don't work now. And so we've got to be thoughtful about that. This has given us a chance to step back and know beyond all of that, who are we in this moment? So the first thing is you've got to think about who you are, and specifically if it's from an entrepreneurial. And I say in my company, doesn't matter who signs your check, you write it. Everybody's an entrepreneur. Most of the people who walk into Richard's office have their own websites, okay? And so we all think of ourselves as individual brands because we are that. Kudos, we've reached that. Know yourself, number one. Number two, you've got to know where your network is. Your network leads to your net worth. And so you've got to know where that is. Number three, and this is something I have quoted on my desk, and the most expensive thing in my office is a tiny little frame about this size. It's handwritten by me, and it says, I get my results from where I place my attention. We all want to be fully informed. We all want to bring our authentic missions to our work. We've got to make sure we remember our results are going to come from where we place our attention. And so you can't be scattered all about the place, being everything to everybody. And you've got to remember to be 100% to yourself as well. And then number four, intentional. Know why you're in business. Was the reason you went into business a year or two ago the reason you continue in? It can change and still mean that you have a meaningful business to deliver, but you've got to be able to define why you're in business before you ever build a strategy. Do that work. These sound general. When you sit down and task yourself, especially if anybody's read my books and they know I'm a fan of the T-graph, when you T-graph each of those four things out, it can be very revealing for you. And by the way, I continue to do that myself. So yeah, I think that's important up front. We can definitely dig deeper into specific questions if you have them. I'm excited about the opportunity to share.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And you're so right. Where you put your time and energy, those are where the results come from. So really being able to have that honest reflection and prioritize that, right? Because it does change and it does shift. Such great advice, such great insights. Well, speaking of those books, my next question is really trying to ask if we can somehow dispel it down to a couple more ideas that come out of those books that are ones maybe that you reflect on a lot or share with inside of your leadership team and others that you chat with all the time. From acting up, winning in business and life, using down home wisdom, the art of work, how to make work for you, a fantastic title, The Strangest Secret, and As a Person Thinks. What are maybe 2 or 3 of those nuggets that have sort of been reflected in the last several years, maybe come out, and ones that you always find yourself grounded by that you could share with us today?
Oh, you know what? Here's one that actually I think we're getting different answers to when we think about it than actually when I put it out there. And it's a poem, and it comes from the book As a Man Thinketh, and I rewrote it to As a Person Thinketh, right? Got to represent for my ladies, right? We're a gender inclusive society today, and some of us identify from self. And so I thought it was important to rewrite it so it could be received well, right? And this is it. We think in secret and it comes to pass. Environment is but our looking glass. Now, when I first came upon that idea, and it's part of a larger poem in the book, Nicola, had some pushback to it because of all the things we just talked about. I mean, how rhythmic is life? Only 7 notes and, so many moments for people derive from them. If it's music, right? Only so many alphabets, but so many words, thoughts, and expressions are derived from it. And so how we think becomes important in how we use what we have. 7 notes are only 7 notes to someone who does not have the ability to see music from it. To lengthen the note, to heighten it, to bass, to treble it, or the alphabet, are only letters unless we have the ability, the spirit to be able to write great thoughts and passages, from it. And so when I first came upon that line, we think in secret and it comes to pass. Environment is but our looking glass. I had a little bit of rejection to it because I was thinking, where I grew up in a segregated South, attending segregated schools, never having a book with all the pages in it until my 11th grade of year when I went cross town to the white school. I was ready to reject the idea that where I am is a reflection of where I've been thinking. And then I opened my mind and my heart to life as it is. And I realized, no, I'm the biggest player in my life. I grew up in a family and a community that said, it's not what people call you, it's what you answer to. It's not the number of letters you have, it's how you complete the thought from them. It's not the number of notes you have, it's how you see the music and share it forward. And so for me, that's been what I've thought on over this period of pandemic. And when you ask what I would share with our audience right now, it's go to the book. If you don't go to the book, go to this thought. I think in secret and it comes to pass. Environment is but my looking glass. I create my present. I create my gift. I create my relationships. How you think, put the same amount of ingredients in front of a person. Put the same amount of ingredients in front of many persons and see the kaleidoscope of outcomes that occur from that. You determine where you are in that color spectrum.
Such beautiful words of wisdom, and truly an intentionality that we can all find ourselves in difficult times, right? We get to determine how we show up and what we make of our environment around us. We are that opportunity, and so perfectly reflected with our entrepreneurs joining us today. They are the ones that are actually creating a better, brighter future for all of us in these very difficult times.
I want to thematically stay there for you because in one of my books, I'm not sure if I wrote it in The Art of Work or in Acting Up, okay? But I referenced where I met my mother-in-law for the first time. And we had this chat, right? And my husband, Bernie, let me just tell you, guys, you can have your dream life. And it doesn't have to devolve into a nightmare. Okay, I found the perfect person for me. Never do I suggest that Bernie Howroyd was a perfect human being. What I will suggest is he was perfect for me. I went to meet his mom, and Nicola, I'm sitting there. And I grew up this nappy-headed little colored girl in Tarboro, North Carolina. I've said that publicly before, right? I'm a blonde today, y'all. Check me out tonight. It might be anything. But in that moment, I was this nappy-headed little girl from Tarboro, North Carolina, sitting in front of who I knew was going to be my mother-in-law. And she's a Yorkshire woman. No, she was born in Lancashire. She raised her family in Yorkshire. So she was like double Brit, right? And I dared to ask her, two questions that were profound for me. The first question I asked her, I said, well, if Bernie and I get married, you know, our kids are going to be African American. And I said that contextually to a larger conversation. And she said, wait, love, I can't do the British accent. Okay. I'm just too Southern for that. But she did say to me, Nicola, she challenged me. She said, well, wouldn't our Burnett count for anything? Why have you got to split a kid up like that? Wow, it hit me, because we do that in life in so many ways, whether it's race, whether it's opportunity in our businesses, or even whether it's us. We split us up. We're either this or that. Why can't we share thought and idea? And why can't we enjoy the beauty of our creation to be more than one thing? Two things can be true. Okay. And then the other thing I did intentionally ask her, Nicola, that stayed with me, you ask about thoughts from the book. I asked her, listen, my mom and dad, one mom, one dad, 11 kids. That's how we did it back then. I said, they raised 11 kids, and I think they did a pretty good job. What would your advice be to raising kids? She only raised 3, right? She said, your children more attention pay to what you do than what you say. And I thought, why don't we write this down right now in this moment? And I'm really saying this right now as you're listening. Write this down, because it sounds so simple when someone's saying it to you. It becomes different when you put your pen to it. Write this down. My world more attention will pay to what I do than what I say. If you're in a relationship that you're trying to solve, if you've got an employee you're attempting to guide in a different direction or inspire beyond their current performance, write this down. Janice, more attention will pay to what I do than what I say. Bob, more attention will pay to what I do than what I say. Aha, how about this? I will more attention pay to what I do than what I say. That's critically important when we're all building businesses forward with fewer resources than we perchance had 24 months ago. When we've got employees, teams, staffs, clients who are all trying to figure out a lot of stuff, we sometimes think that how we talk is going to be the big thing. But you know, one of my employees shared something with me in an email, Kathy. She sent it to me and she screenshot the notes she'd taken in a meeting over 26 years ago. And those notes had things like this in it. Don't talk to people, talk with people. A relationship is more than one person. Don't just understand a person's business problems, understand who they are. All of these valuable lessons were taken, and many more, from one meeting we had years ago. And I don't know if Richard Wilkie's here. I've shouted him out several times because he's one of the most inspiring leaders you can ever have. But Richard can tell you, those meetings that we have go deep, and we build everything in our business around who that customer is, that client, that applicant. It's very popular for companies today to shout out 2 things. 1, their focus on their talent. And 2, the diversity and inclusiveness of their talent. And by the way, we've always had diversity available to us. We've always had that. It's how inclusive we are about that diversity that makes the difference in how we build our companies forward. And so I think it's really important. You know, this is the best opportunity any entrepreneur can have in this moment. This moment is so important to how you build your business. Number one, those things that you used to, Mary Kay used to say, fake it till you make it. Now, fake has taken on a different meaning for us in a political climate, okay, that we live in. And regardless of where you are politically, understand where people are holistically. Our clients are prepared to work with us differently than they did before. You can bring the truth. You don't have to fake it. You can bring the truth to them. Remember what my Grandma Lizzie said. They're going to more attention pay to what you do than what you say. You don't have to put a lot of excuses out there. Put the plan in front of them. Allow them to share in the development of the plan. More clients are right now engaged to help you solve forward for them than they were 24 months ago. And I'm speaking that from our own truth. There are clients today we can suggest, do we really need 14 people on this, or can we build it forward utilizing this little bit of extra technology? Or conversely, are you really going to try to do this with just 2 people when you know you're going to get smarter, faster, better results if you'll allow 4 people to team up for you? Being thoughtful to the outcome. We get our results from where we place our attention. Oh, girl, I could go on and on. Let me stop.
I wanted it. I wanted all and some. But let's stay with that soul forward. Beautiful words of wisdom for this crowd to inspire, to take away from it. And I think all of us are hopeful that in 2021, that opportunity of a brighter horizon is there. We're seeing it and we're Pollyanna-ing it all the way through.
And
so how are our entrepreneurs? What do you need?
Nicola, by the way, it's fine to stay hopeful. It's better to stay helpful.
Helpful. There we go. We're going to say helpful forward for sure in this. But for entrepreneurs who are hoping to come out of this very difficult economic challenge, what advice would you have for them to really gain traction coming out from this long winter that understandably everyone has been on for these last long, many months?
Okay, so here I go. I'm going to give you some thoughts that work for me. I can only speak to you best when I speak to my truth, right? Number one, step back and take care of yourself, your health. I'm talking about. Health isn't just what you eat. It's not just whether you've got a Peloton or you're blessed to be able to walk out in trails as I can where I live. It's also your mental and your spiritual health. You know, years ago, I encouraged a ladies group I was doing a weekend session for. I used to do these weekend sessions for women building businesses. We get together. And one of the things that was really big in it was about playing the music that takes you where you want to go. You know, if you've got the blues, don't play the blues. But play it. And by the way, I'm not just saying that as a flippant thought. Really, another thing I'd ask you guys to do is find your top all-time playlist that pumps you up. I mean, I can hardly wait to get back to the Staples Center and listen to You're Simply the Best, you know, and pumping through that stadium. Pump yourself up, okay? Take care of your health. The second thing is use this as a really good time to vet whether you want to do the business you're doing. You can reinvent yourself as well as innovate yourself. Reinvent, the idea is very, very mathematical. The sum of us is greater than our separate parts, right? Sit back. Look at what you really want to be doing right now. There is no failure in redesigning toward your better outcome. If you find you still want to hang with the business you're in, the way you're in it, then, and somebody chatted, I don't know what a T-graph is. Maybe Nicola, you guys can share with your community later the page in the book, but it was my original book, The Art of Work. And I share with people how to develop and work from the T-graph. Do the T-graph, you guys. If you don't know what it is, it's in my book that can talk quicker and better to you how to work it. I live on that T-graph. There's not a month that goes by that I don't purposefully T-graph. The other thing that you need to do is you need to have clear, complete communication with your employees if you are the owner of a company that has employees. Many of us are entrepreneurs, but we are entrepreneuring it on a team of one. If you've got, and that leads me to, that clear communication is very important. There's a whole session we do on that. I'm happy to offer it to you if you want at a later time, at an advanced time. But the last point that I want to share, and it leads forward to that, is understand that the minute you have an employee who is other than yourself, they become the most important person in that equation. You know, we say in our company this, the most important person you'll ever speak with is the person you're speaking with at that time, as far as they are concerned. You've really got to learn that this is not about empathy. This is about understanding. This is a business practice. It's not something you do when you go back to church on Sunday after COVID. It's not something you do holding a wine glass in your hand at a reception. It's what you do as a practicality of building your business to a financially profitable enterprise. You must understand the most important person you'll ever speak with is the person you're speaking with as far as they are concerned. We live that in our organization. There are very few people who are hired into our organization who don't know that within the first 5 days of their employment.
I absolutely love that. And it is always true, right? There's never a moment when that's not true, which is just fantastic.
Never a moment.
Now,
Never.
speaking of all truths, one of the fun things that has come out of your podcast is this beautiful realization that success can come in many different forms and many different flavors. So my question to you is this: given that that is a truth, how do we find common denominators, or what do you find is the common denominator when we try to find the truth within ourselves as to what success really is and what we're drawn to?
Well, here's the thing, okay? And this is something from Earl Nightingale, who also has been an incredible mentor to me. Before we find it, we have to define it, okay? For us, and I say us collectively because, you know, the people in my company are just so incredible. I think of them as family. I mean, David Lewis is my chief of staff, and David joined our organization straight out of the military. Thank you again for your service, David. And he loves to tell people, I've only ever had 2 employers, the U.S. military and ActOne Group. He will tell you, I say that dynamically because when you can put a name and a face to it, you tend to stick to the truth of it. And everything I'm sharing has to be a truth that people can test. Earl Nightingale taught us, and we live this in our organization, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. I want everybody, and they can find that because I did those tapes online, they can find it. But I want everybody right now to have a moment and write that down. Nicola, let's give them a second. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. I can see you trying to write without looking, but personalize it. My success is my progressive realization of my worthy ideals. We talked about us all being such a beautiful composite. I think I used the word kaleidoscopic, you know, existence. Isn't it wonderful that we can live that way, even in the face of all the stuff that is going on? Okay, here's the thing. If you're trying to identify what your success is, you've got to take the full measure of what it means to you. One of the world's greatest stars, or we can list any number of them. Let's stick with music as an example. Elvis Presley had a successful career, but was the life successful? Michael Jackson incredible successful career? Was the life successful? We can cross genre of music or of industry, and we can see over and over people who were looked to have a successful career who did not have successful lives, and who had families and communities who invested in those careers with failure for themselves in those moments. And so please identify what success looks like to you. You can put a number on it. You gotta be real. We gotta know that there are positive and negatives in numbers as well as in life. You first got to step back and identify what success looks like for you. An example to personalize it. My success in my personal life has to mean that Bernie and my two children, Bernie always says, when I would say, oh, my kids, he say, didn't I have something to do with it, Lovey? And I would say, just a little bit. And then, okay, this is a morning conversation. I'll keep it clean. In any event, when we look at my personal life, that my two adult children continue to consider me one of their best friends and want as much time with me as possible. We're quarantined together. They left beautiful homes to be here with me in quarantine. That's part of my success, that they want that. My siblings and my mom, our dad has gone to heaven. My siblings and my mom, we all support each other wherever we're going. That's success to me. In our business, we stated at the front of COVID, we're not just going through this, we're growing through this. Write it down for yourselves. I'm not just going through this, I'm growing through this. The affirmation of what you want to occur is as important as the deliberate steps you take to gaining it. And it's vitally important that you go back to that pen and that paper. Now, I'm a keyboarder, okay? I live by iPad. Apple should pay me. I advertise iPad all the time, okay? I can do everything from iPad. I can finish up my bid whist game while I talk with you by iPad, okay? But it's important to pull pen and paper back out and go through the long hand of it, you know, and define what success looks like for you, you know, and then you can't cheat yourself. You've really got to be honest. Every year we budget. And I have a client who does something. I've not done it in my organization yet. I'm a work in progress as well, okay? But this client, Nicola, has us budget towards certain outcomes they're going to receive. This is a company we do business with in over 7 countries, okay? And we have to tell them within a margin what our performance will look like. Cost savings, growth, failure to hire from applicants, completion of assignments within ratios. All of these metrics, they believe that if you can't measure it, it doesn't matter, okay? And so all of these metrics have to occur within the margin we pre-agree to. Performance, we overperformed for this client 1 year. We gave them more than we'd agreed to and more than they'd asked for. And we got dinged for it because we didn't project it. And they made decisions based on what we had given them. And they considered it an opportunity cost, which was an opportunity loss for them. And so the margin of our prediction became as important as the delivery and the performance. That's how they run a business. You see what I'm saying? And so it becomes very important when I say to you that you've got to sit down and you've got to write it down, that you do that. Your ability to learn the rhythm of your performance in a business is critical. It allows you to go back then to look with, not at, look with each member of your team and define where their success is happening and where the opportunity to improve is. When you fire somebody, it should never be a surprise to them. When you promote someone, it should never be a surprise to them. If you are working well with your employees and you are managing from measurables, everybody get, and those measurables have to be the same and fair for equitable jobs. There are no favorites. When we start up businesses, you're always going to have one or two employees who are in there for the life of it and others who are coming through it. Accept the fact, but know the fact that there are going to be some people who join your company because it's a job on their way to the career they want. And there are other people who are going to join your company because they're looking to build a career in how they perform for you. Know the difference, embrace the difference. I would even say encourage the difference. But whether they are in a job on a way to a career or whether they're in a career with your organization, they should understand what's being measured about them. And that enables them to not have surprises and they can also outreach to you for support. They don't need to wait for a review to find out how they did. They can utilize those measurables in a way that allows them to plan forward and ask for the support they need. You must understand your business, your clients, and your client's industry. Many companies don't fail because they don't understand their industry. They fail because they don't understand the industry of their clients. And understanding your client is very different than understanding the industry of your client. You can be a highly consultative supplier or partner to any company you work with. When you understand their industry, you're able to take to them ideas, practices, and outcomes of their competition, of their industry need differently when you understand their industry. Don't just understand the client. The client is doing things from a prescribed perspective. Understand their industry and they will better value you for what you bring to the partnership. I love this stuff. It needs to be a classroom.
It's so true. And speaking of these amazing...
Let me just say one thing, Nicola, to that, and then I'm done with that, okay? No. Put a formula to it. Write this down, everybody, right now. The formula is... And then whatever it is you're working on in your business, a lot of times we give a lot of attention to the problems in our business. I encourage you today, give a lot of attention to the success in your business as well. If you can repeat enough of the success, you can overwhelm the problem. Please don't leave here thinking I'm telling you, don't look at the problems in your business. Definitely look at them. Find solutions to them in the successes of your business. When I was talking with you earlier, Jane, Joe, Rob, Bob, about understanding your business better, when I just said put a formula to it, when I talked with you about innovating it or changing it, this is where you're going to do that. If you want help with that formula and how to build the formula, we can give you a generic prescription in another time. That's up to Nicola and her team. But right now, if you have that ability to do it for yourself, the formula is... And then you write what it is you're looking to solve for. Quick example, I promise, Nicola, okay? Let's say the problem in your business right now is the clients are paying slow, okay? Then you've got to write down the formula for that. I'm sending you back to the T-graph to do the plus and minus of it. Get the T-graph. If you do nothing else from this visit today, get the T-graph and work it. And let Nicola know how you like it, okay? But work that T-graph. Once you've worked that T-graph, you're better able to dissect where the real problem is and how you solve for it. Sometimes it's as simple as you don't ask because you're afraid to lose the business. Other times it's a bit more complex. You're asking in the wrong way and you need to define it. If you're a startup, it may be you're not asking the right people. You're going to accounts payable to get paid when you should be attending an event that you know that CEO is going to be speaking at, or that reception is. Make yourself known, and then let them know how much you appreciate doing the business, and you really regret that you're going to have to close the relationship. You know, you don't have to be fired by the customer. Sometimes you can fire the customer, or even the threat of the fire of the customer can be enough if they value what you're giving to up the ante for how they pay you. But there's a formulaic expression to every part of your business that you're looking to solve for.
Everything that you have just shared is part of the emulation of why we love your quote so much. I'm more invested in getting it right than being right.
Yes.
For our own purpose and for a minute or two, would you maybe dissect a little bit of what that means to you, and like ways that you kind of stress test that in the day of like, am I really going to where I'm spending my investment of time getting it right rather than being right? Would you do that for us?
Yeah. We see it played out on the world stage. Don't just hold it here at the USA level, okay? We've just gone through political changes across the world, okay, that impact economies. And a lot of it isn't because we don't have the solutions at hand to get it right. And let's step back 1 second. Most of us want the same thing. We want health. We want financial security. Some of us want financial success at an even higher level. We want love that may express itself differently for different people. But as a human part of the animal kingdom, we all want the basic same things, and the solutions for those are there. Where we get into trouble, whether it's with our politics, whether it's within the organization and our business dynamics, whether it's in our communities and the neighbor next door with the loud dog, whether it's with our children, our significant other, whether it's with ourselves, we get into trouble because we get invested in being right more than we do in getting it right. Now, I just said, most of us want the same thing. If you boil it down scientifically, all of us want the same thing. The minute you're born, you're dying. You want the best expression and opportunity between that time, your date of birth and date of death. You want the best experience between that, okay? Some of us even have higher goals. We want to leave the world better than when we came. We want to leave the environment safer for our children. Some of us want very basic things. We want to eat without plunder, okay? Whatever we want, we've got to define that. The solution to that should encourage us that we don't always have to be right to get it right. Getting it right will better help us to be right than being right will help us to get it right. Let me repeat that for you. Getting it right will better help us to be right than being right helps us to get it right. And so being right, sometimes walking into the circumstance, the situation, the dilemma, or the opportunity means that we come in with a predetermined outcome or position on how things should be done. A lot of it has been taught and learned through our own personal experiences. Today, we work in a world where culturally, ethnically, experientially, our teams are broader, more diverse than they've ever been before. They may not be as inclusive yet if we're not doing some things in our organization, but definitely the platforms from where we work, whether within our companies or in our client base, are more inclusive than ever before. Every single person in that dynamic has an idea, if not a persuasion, about what it is and how it should be. And we have to value each other's contribution through experience, culture, and perspective in order to get it right, which means we must walk into any group engagement understanding that I'm not going to be right until we get it right. And every instance we look in the world where people have had that perspective, we see positive outcome. And I won't even go into it, being that my middle name is Pollyanna, where you don't have it because we didn't walk in with that. With that, it's really a gift to yourself. One of the most selfish things you can do, Nicola, is want to get it right instead of wanting to be right, because everybody can win from the outcome. Note I said everybody can win. When you solve for solutions as a business person, everybody may not win. When you've solved well, everybody can win. The dynamic of whether they win or not depends on their own point of perspective and their willingness, sometimes enthusiasm, to engage in how we determine we're going to do this. One thing I will say, if you're a business owner or a business leader of people, all of us are leaders of ourselves. Remember, we started the conversation. Doesn't matter who signs your check, you write it, okay? That's the entrepreneur of you. But all of us have an opportunity to engage to our own deliberate outcome. As a business leader, you have the responsibility to measure how that engagement occurs and the outcome of it. And remember, if you've got a team of 3 or more, everybody has to perform to what you've determined they will perform. There is no room for favorites when you're leading a team.
I love that. I absolutely love that. All right, I have one last question. It is amazing how fast our time has flown by in conversation.
Oh, we only been 5 minutes, right?
I know. How is that even possible? But here's the question. I want to lead with opportunity. My Pollyanna, amazing friend of the moment here. The opportunity question is this. In times of crisis, you have been known and you have said that these also present opportunities not to lose from. So how do we make this a movement that has mattered despite the challenges of this last year? How can all of us play a part in really magnifying this movement that lies in front of us, despite the challenge, despite the crisis that we're all in and have been in this last year?
So most of us are aware of George Floyd, and I refer to it as 8 minutes, 43 seconds. I don't know if they've redetermined the length of time, but right away, I said something that I've heard quoted and requoted. I said, don't let this be a moment in history. Let it be a movement in history. You know, stuff happens. And in our incredibly platformed world where we have technology that we can start a business in 1 minute and within 10 minutes be a global business. There's so much choice. How do we make a movement of it? Here I go back to 4 things. Okay, first thing, 1, we've got to define what the it is in it. Write that down. What is the it in it for me? We are filled with a lot of stuff going on at the same time. And we are looking at all of it. And we are competent and capable. We are caring and engaged. We are informed. We are authentic. We are all those things. And the world is doing this. And we've got to figure out what is the it in it for me. And that means that we may have to schedule some things so that we determine how we work best. For me, I love doing the hard stuff first, the big stuff first, and then the little things just become dessert, okay? There are people who, like me, have said before, oh, life's short, eat dessert first. Life's not certain, eat dessert first. Some people want to handle the little things, and it helps them get more purposeful in the process of it. But you've got to define how you work best and then commit to that. That moves you from moment to movement, okay? The second thing is you've got to make sure that you're revisiting for the schedule. Now, when you read the book, you're going to see that I tell you, you've got to have timelines. And so as you go through those, you were invited me to talk about the book. I'm talking as though they've read the book, okay? But when you go through those timelines, that things have to occur. Make sure that you're doing it in a deliberate way, because the relay is won by everybody being done doing what they're supposed to at that moment. You can have the fastest runner in the world, but if the relay doesn't hand off at the right time, you've lost the race. That's what I'm talking about. So make sure you're visiting your timelines. It's not just that you're doing it well. Are you doing it well within the timeline? Okay. Third thing, you've got to be honest about who's in the game with you. And this is part of being right or getting it right. Maybe you thought that employee was the best ever, and you're investing time and time and time and time, attention, because you know you've got it in, they've got it in them. Well, no, what you're really saying is, I know I've got it in me, and you're betting yourself against their success. Once somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time. If you've made the error of a bad hire, by the way, you can call Richard or me. We can help you find them another job. But don't keep people on the team who aren't winning. Because if they're failing for you, they're failing even more for themselves. Be better than that. Conversely, you've hired somebody who was just hired for that little job, and they are stepping it up. Make sure you don't put a ceiling to their opportunity. Now, for my ladies on this call, we all know what glass ceilings look like, and we're working every day to crash them, right? Some of them we need kryptonite to do it. Don't you be that employer. Okay, make sure you're fair in your assessment of your team. Because honestly, when they go home, they think about how you treat everybody, not just themselves. And then they decide how they've been treated. And by the way, if you're doing business in California, there are a lot of laws and regulations that determine how well or how not well you do that. All the states are coming current to how people are being treated. So have those measurables in place. They matter. The fourth thing is thematically what I am living, what I am sharing, and what I am breathing life to, that our country and our world will do. And that is take that moment to truly assess ourselves. If you're so super dynamic that you just can't do yourself, ask somebody else to do you. How many of you have one or more employees who you can walk up to and ask them, how would you like me to improve? What do you need from me for you to succeed? You will be amazed at how honest and appreciative your employee team members can be when they know you're being honest and appreciative with and of them around the same subject. Many companies in our industry don't like to share the financials of their business. We share with our employees. They know the strength and the weakness of the organization they work in. More importantly, they know how well they can perform to it. And when we've seen how companies have thrived, survived, held on, or failed through this pandemic, more and more talented people are prepared to take a bet on your company than Fortune 50 or 100 brand names they felt so secure about hiring into before. They've learned that at the heart of it, most companies still are going to make academic decisions before they make idealistic decisions around the culture of who they are. Find out the culture of who you are. It will influence, it will support, and it will ensure that your business can grow beyond this moment into a movement. It has to be a movement that has room for all and that has the same expectations for all. Yeah.
For a movement for all, how could I ask for better words to part our time with today? To say thank you does not even begin to do justice. To say that there are copious notes that everyone is furiously writing still at this time does not even begin to do justice. Thank you. Thank you for inspiring, for leading, for being you above all else. And
may I say one thing? May I say one thing?
Absolutely.
I put this into the universe. I put it into your universe. No, and I'm in HR. I'm very thoughtful about the words I use. No matter who you call God every day. Then be quiet and listen. Many of us in prayer, regardless of how we evolve that, whether it's from religion or whether it's from a more holistic perspective, whether it's universal or whether it's very cultured into one moment, most of us do more talking than listening in prayer. I have learned, and this is the one thing I share with you, that has sustained me through and enabled me to greet every day with joy and with the affirmation of an outcome. I have learned that when I pray in listening more than I pray in asking, I better receive. I encourage you to do this. I've taught this for a lot of years. Since August 2nd, 2020, I have lived the truth of it phenomenally. No matter who you call God every day. Then be quiet and listen. I think our universe can use a little bit of that. And I'm so happy and expectant for everything that life presents us. We get to create life. That's one of the amazing things about being human in the animal kingdom.
Absolutely. We're going to seize that moment, every moment from this point forward. To our amazing entrepreneurs, thank you so much again for all you're doing, for being you, for showing up, for listening. We look forward to following up. We look forward to sharing more of the events we have coming around for the needs and the opportunities that you're asking for. I've got one ask, if you will be so kind for us. We can only improve when you share what it is that you need and how we did. So if you would be so kind as to take just a moment to share your feedback today, we would truly be so grateful. Thank you for all our sponsors,
Thank you.
And everyone. Take care, JVA.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.